I'm here today to show you how to hit the 3-wood off the deck, one of the most difficult clubs to hit, especially off the ground. Why is it so difficult? Well, it's got quite a long sole, which usually means there's going to be, yes, there's a little bit more forgiveness, but also if we don't quite get it right, then unfortunately that ball is either going to be topped or it's going to be usually fatted. Those are the two really bad shots that we experience when the ball's off the ground with the fairway wood, especially topping. So why does it happen? For me, there's two real key elements that we need to get right when hitting a 3-wood off the ground. First of all, we need to make sure that that club face is pointing pretty much at the target. Because the problem is, when it's not quite, when that club face is open or when it's closed, you'll notice how when the club face, for example, is open, we'll see the back of the golf club getting to the ground first, and when it's closed, we'll see the leading edge of the golf club get to the ground first. And that leads to a massive problem. It means the sole of the golf club can't slide and glide through the surface. So we've got to make sure that absolutely first and foremost, that club face is lined up to our target line. It's pointing at our target line. And then and only then is that club, is that sole of that golf club able to glide and slide under the ball. As I say, when it's too open or when it's too closed, that's when we're going to struggle to get that sole working. We need to allow that sole. This is the big purpose of the golf club here. We feel it's a massive golf club. We feel it's fairly easy to hit, or in simple terms, it looks easy to hit because it's quite big. But it's difficult because we need to get that exact right angle of approach on that golf ball. In this case, making sure that club face is pointing where it should be, i.e. at the target, because that can distort where that sole of that golf club is coming into the golf ball. Secondly, and as simple as it possibly is, we need to get that golf club onto the ground. But not only onto the ground itself, it needs to be in contact with the ground for roughly about sort of a foot or so. So it's not a sort of steep angle of attack like we can get away with an iron. It's more of, yes, it's a shallow angle of attack, but ultimately that club needs to be on that ground for roughly about a foot. So we can't dig that club into the ground. We can't just shave that. We've got to make sure that club is into the ground for as long as it possibly can be. We need to make sure that club is around about a foot or so. That club has got to be in contact with the ground for roughly about a foot or so to make sure we are sliding and gliding that club again underneath the surface. But how do we know these two things are happening? How do we know these two vital things are happening? What I want you lot out there to do, if you struggle with your 3-wood, I want you to do some slow motion swings, because again, we're changing something, we're changing a feeling. We need to make sure that it's done in slow motion. The more it's done in slow motion, the easier it is to make progress. So I want you to do these two things for me. Again, as I say, in slow motion, feeling when we come into the golf ball, so normal setup, make sure again your setup's as normal as it possibly can be. Hopefully it's all where it should be. But again, with these two things, these two factors that we're trying to feel here, try not to think about anything else. Just feel these two things. One, so when we come into the golf ball, that club face should be pointing pretty much just out in front of the golf ball for us here as we're coming in. And then slow motion, almost mimic what impact would be. Impact being the face pointing at the ball and therefore the target. So when we come into impact and that face is pointing way right, we know that club is not going to ground out where it should do. Likewise, if that club face is pointing way left, we know that golf club is not going to ground out where it should do. Okay, so when we come into the golf ball, that center of that golf club and that face of that golf club should be pointing very much at our target. So do that in slow motion, mimic that impact position where we should be at impact. Secondly, slightly faster motion, but again, another feeling for what the club needs to do. We need to feel that club brushing the turf. Feel that club brushing the turf. Almost feel, you don't even need to take the club back for this drill. just feel the golf club in contact with the ground, again for about a foot, foot and a half, to get that feeling of that club sliding and gliding through. So we don't want to dig into the ground because that club will just bounce up and give us very little margin for error. And likewise, we don't want to miss the ground because otherwise we'll just go back to topping that golf ball, and obviously no good to man nor beast. So we need to make sure, again, that face pointing at the target, pointing at the golf ball at impact, and the feeling that club is just in gliding and sliding, brushing that turf for, again, roughly about a foot, foot and a half. And when we do those, we'll hopefully hit some really crisp fairway woods that can help you get that ball, one, up in the air, but two, as far down as we possibly can do. Hope this helps. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and comment below for me, please.